Right, let's start today's session. So this is the second session of .NET demo. So last week Friday, I was just discuss about only basics of .NET Core, and this is the second session. And within just 5 minutes, I'll explain what I was covered in the last session, which was done on Friday. And let's continue. So as I discussed, this is completely .NET Core. .NET Core, and in this .NET Core batch, I'm going to cover these subjects which already discussed in my last session: C#.NET, ASP.NET Core, next ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core MVC, ASP.NET Core MVC, and ASP.NET Core Entity Framework and Web API, along with SQL Server. SQL Server. Okay. So these are the subjects which I'm going to cover in our .NET Core concept. So next, yes, already my uh, audio is perfect. Voice is low. Yeah, fine. So C#.NET, ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET Core MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, SQL Server. Okay, this duration of this course is 4 months compulsory it will take, and every day session recorded video I'll send to your Google Drive. You have to download it. Okay, so let's try to introduction of .NET here. Let's try to give the introduction to .NET. So as I said that in the last session, C#.NET is a programming language generally which is used to write coding part for the application development. And whereas ASP.NET is not a programming language, it is a web technology or server-side technology like active server page. And ASP.NET with .NET framework is there, ASP.NET with core framework is there. So .NET framework means the application which we develop using .NET framework that can be able to run on only Windows operating system. And the applications when we develop using .NET Core that can be able to run on any operating system. That means cross-platform. So .NET Core is completely cross-platform or platform independent. .NET Framework is completely platform dependent, only which will run on Windows kind of operating system. And MVC is a model view controller. It is a architectural pattern or design pattern. While developing ASP.NET web applications, we are going to use this model view controller architecture only. 3-layer architectures are there. Entity framework is a communication with front-end application to back-end application, especially database communication purpose. We use entity framework core. Web API is for exclusively creating APIs using .NET. And SQL Server is for database purpose, where we can store the information, whatever we collect from client, and that information we have to store it into separate storage area like that SQL Server software we are going to use. And even .NET Core supports Oracle, MySQL, any other database also, but most of the .NET applications recommend SQL Server database only. Okay, SQL Server database. So this is the reason we are using SQL Server database, because SQL Server is a Microsoft product, and all .NET related languages like C#.NET, ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, all related to Microsoft only here. So .NET is the Microsoft product. .NET is the Microsoft product. .NET is the Microsoft product. .NET was announced by Bill Gates in the year of 2000 only. .NET was announced by Bill Gates in the year of 2000, and the first version of .NET. First version of .NET was released. First version of .NET was released in the year of 2002 only. From 2002 till 2022, there are so many .NET framework versions are there and .NET core versions also there. So .NET framework means what?
Hello,
.NET
hello,
core
sir.
means what here? Tell me.
సార్ ఇప్పుడు ఈ వెబ్ ఏబిఎస్ అజూర్లో వర్కింగ్ కి చెప్తారండి మీరు టెల్ దట్ అజూర్ వర్కింగ్ ఉంది కదా యాక్చువల్లీ నేను ఎంప్లాయీ దట్స్ వై
No. Azure related, not just normal API creation, how it will work, how to create using ASP.NET through we'll discuss.
ఓకే వెబ్ ఏబిఎస్ ఇస్ అదే వర్కింగ్ ఆన్ అజూర్ ఇస్ నాట్ దట్స్ వై
Yeah, no, it will work, but we are not going to cover that. Normal API creations and how to prepare using ASP.NET we'll discuss.
ఓకే అజూర్ ఓకే సార్ ఓకే సార్
Yeah. So now coming to this .NET framework and .NET Core. So both are frameworks only, .NET Core framework and normal .NET framework. So .NET framework is completely work on Windows operating system, and this make platform dependent only. So that is platform dependent. So when we go for .NET Core framework, which can be able to run on all operating system, which makes completely platform independent. But from 2002, there was lot of frameworks are there, especially .NET frameworks. .NET framework 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 4.5, 4.6, 7, like that. Many frameworks are there, which is completely run on Windows operating system, that is platform dependent only. From 2016 onwards, like first .NET Core version was released by Microsoft. From there onwards, .NET Core framework was available, so that can make our .NET applications or platform independent like Java only, same. So before 2016, there was only .NET framework. So programmers need to implement .NET applications using .NET framework, which can be able to run on only Windows operating system, not other operating system. But when it comes to .NET Core, which was released in the year of 2016, from there onwards, we can use this .NET Core framework, which will make to develop applications on platform independent, like cross-platform only. So framework is nothing but it's a collection of class libraries. So whether it is .NET framework or .NET Core framework, both are same, like collection of class libraries. As soon as when we install .NET software, so automatically these framework class libraries will be there. And that framework libraries through, we can start development of our applications. Without .NET framework or .NET Core framework, there is no .NET. Why? Because most of the libraries automatically installed when we download these frameworks and install in our mission. From there onwards, we can start development of our application. If you don't install or include these frameworks into your computer, so you will not get any libraries. Obviously, you will not able to develop an application. So that's the reason without .NET framework or .NET Core framework, we can't able to develop an application. And you can able to download these frameworks from official website like Microsoft.com website, and no need to install separately this .NET Core framework separately, because depends on your version of Visual Studio. So automatically these frameworks are integrated with Visual Studio. So what is Visual Studio means? Visual Studio is an editor tool for .NET developers. Visual Studio is an editor tool where .NET programmers write the code and compile the code and execute the code. This is the editor tool platform. Visual Studio is an editor tool or editor software where we can write and execute the code. Visual Studio. So generally, I'm going to use in our session Visual Studio 2019 or 2022. This is the latest one, 2022. Both are going to work well, no issues. but 2019 is the best usage for .NET Core as well as .NET Framework also we can build it. And 2022 is the recent release at last few years to 1.5 year back. It was there 1 year back almost. So 2022. So this is also fine. I have already in my computer 2022 as well as 2019. So VS 2019, this software is required. Along with this software, I'll strongly recommend to install SQL Server 2019 software also. So what software configuration is required, sir, to write or to build a .NET application means these two softwares are very important. So one is Visual Studio 2019 or 2012, SQL Server 2019. These two are enough. So SQL based, because we are going to deal with in our upcoming sessions always database connectivity, storing, data retrieval. These are all things we are going to do that. So for that compulsory SQL Server 2019 software is required. And Visual Studio means this is the official editor from Microsoft, which will recommend for especially .NET developers. So Visual Studio 2019 or 2022, you have to install and you have to start development of your application. And coming to this, once I am ready with this software, two softwares, but what is the configuration is required? No configuration, happily Windows operating system 10 or 11, whatever it is. And also minimum RAM like 2 GB, 4 GB, it's enough. And hard disk space is 20 GB enough, because Visual Studio takes around 5 to 6 GB space. SQL Server also take around 5 to 6 GB. This is the basic configuration. It's not a huge configuration is required for .NET application. But make sure that you should be ready with Visual Studio as well as SQL Server softwares compulsory. Okay, because once we ready with this, we can start development of application. But what kind of applications we can develop using .NET? Okay, so this is the application area of .NET, sir. Application area of .NET, where we can use and what kind of applications we can build using .NET. Okay, so first application area means that is standalone or desktop applications. Standalone or desktop applications. So what are the standalone or desktop application means? The applications which will be once we develop and design, where we install, there only it is going to be run or execute, and other missions will not run. So that are standalone or desktop applications. Example is, as I said that in my last session also, console application, that is command line user interface or character user interface. So you are going to deal with normal basic programming, like uh, if you are going to give any input values to the application, you have to give in the form of characters, or if you want to get any output values, you have to get the characters format only. No graphical, nothing. So next, what actually console application after Windows Forms application. Windows Forms application, it is completely graphical user interface. But though this is graphical user interface, but still it is standalone application only. Why? Because using Windows Forms, we can't develop distributed applications or online applications. So, but only the difference is console application and Windows Forms. Console applications are command user interface or character user interface, whereas Windows Forms application is graphical user interface completely. We are going to deal with window forms like standalone applications, labels, buttons, text boxes, images. We can able to interact with them. But next type of applications using .NET, mainly our focus is web applications, especially in ASP.NET. Web applications we can develop using ASP.NET only. We can build a web applications only. ASP stands for Active Server Page, and ASP.NET is not a programming language. It's a server-side technology or web technology. But though you are using ASP.NET for developing or building web applications, but behind the scenes, back-end logic we have to write using what language? C#.NET only. The C#.NET is the mandatory programming language for all .NET applications, any application if you develop. Without C#, we can't provide. We can't provide logic, and we can't able to make interaction pages or dynamic pages. We can't provide using ASP.NET. So ASP.NET with framework is there. ASP.NET with core framework is there. As I said that ASP.NET with framework means which will be run only Windows. ASP.NET with core framework means we are going to follow MVC architecture, so it can be able to run on any operating system, platform independent. So ASP.NET Core MVC means Model View Controller. So these three layers architecture we are going to use. In this case, model represent what actually database, and view represent actually logic. What logic? C#.NET logic. And controller, sorry, view represent presentation, sir. View represent what? Presentation layer. And completely controller represent. Controller is there. Controller represent, it is purely C# logic layer. Presentation layer, database layer, logic layer. This C controller is going to be have the action methods. What action you want to perform, that action methods we can write inside the controller. But same action methods, if you want to access in the view, so again, view is nothing but it's a combination of C# as well as HTML, sir. Presentation layer, generally how we can develop HTML only. So, but in the presentation layer also, uh, view logic, controller logic will work. So that is called CHTML is there. C#.NET plus HTML. C#.NET plus HTML. This is presentation layer. So that's what in the presentation layer, especially view logic, we are going to see the extension like CSHTML code only. CSHTML means C# with HTML. Both combination we should prepare presentation layer view. Model represent what? Completely database related stuff is there. Model properties, tables, names, columns, and everything we can develop using this model through only. But even if we, in the model case also, we are going to write what C#.NET. C#.NET class will become a table name in the database. C#.NET class properties will become a table fields in the database. So model purpose also we use C#.NET logic, but models generally in the ASP.NET MVC how to prepare means entity framework through. Normally in normal normal .NET framework will have that ADO.NET concepts. Even in our sessions, ADO.NET also will discuss. When it comes to Windows Forms application, I'll introduce you ADO.NET so that you will get clarity how ADO.NET will work in the normal .NET framework with Windows Forms, how entity framework will work in the .NET Core platform with especially ASP.NET Web Forms. So both idea will get. So what role will play ADO.NET in the form of normal .NET framework with Windows Forms? Same role here entity framework also will play in the MVC pattern, especially ASP.NET Core platform. That is the thing. So model represent a database, that is to storage area. We can say that this storage area we can prepare with the C#.NET logic files only. That is entity framework core we can call it as. And we represent presentation layer. Finally, end user what output they are going to see on the screen. That is C#.NET with HTML both. That's what extension of every view is what CSS/HTML. Controller is the main part which can be able to control everything, that is logic and action methods we are going to write. So here we are using C#.NET for making controller. We also some part of the C#.NET code we will use, and model preparation also C# is required. So ultimately what you are understanding here, C# is the major contribution in entire this course. Without C# we can't move forward. If you don't know about C#, don't learn ASP.NET Core and MVC, EF, Web API, and so on. So SQL Server, any point of time you can learn it here. There is no relation to the ASP.NET or C#.NET. SQL Server is completely backend like database storage area. Anytime you can learn. So that's what, as I said, in the last session also, my lectures will be like not in this week. This week completely demo sessions will happen, but mostly next week onwards, my plan is C#.NET 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every Friday and Saturday, SQL Server concepts I'm going to cover so that you will get idea about programming, how to write, and idea about database storage, how to pass queries and how to retrieve the data, everything you know. Once you got this completion C# with SQL Server, then we'll start ASP.NET Core and ASP.NET Core MVC and Entity Framework and Web API finally. So this is the action plan or structure like action plan of our course. Okay, not this week, next week onwards I'll implement this action plan. This week continuously demo sessions will happen. You can decide this after attending 3-4 classes, so no problem at all. So in especially web application only focus. My focus is on web application, but console application maximum oops concepts I'm going to cover, which is related to C#.NET, completely logic levels. And Windows Forms application means desktop applications, how to build, especially using with .NET framework. So I have to teach you. So once you are the .NET developer, you should have the knowledge on .NET framework with .NET Core framework. Core completely I'll cover with ASP.NET related. Only framework I'll cover with console and web application, Windows Forms application, so that ADV.NET also will come in the end of Windows Forms application area only. So you will get knowledge of ADV.NET, Windows Forms, console application with the .NET framework, and ASP.NET Core, MVC, Web API, everything in the .NET Core platform only. It doesn't mean that we cannot develop console application, Windows Forms application using .NET Core. Yes, we can also select .NET Core platform for developing console application and Windows Forms application also. But there is no much more code changes are there in the .NET Core and .NET framework, because it's, especially these are standalone applications. There is no much more logic will change. Same logic as it is, only platform dependent or independent like that. But when it comes to ASP.NET, there are a lot of variations when we go for only .NET framework, when we go for own .NET Core framework. So there are a lot of, there is no related ASP.NET with normal framework, ASP.NET with core framework, unrelated, completely different style of architecture. Okay, so even in our classroom, okay, so whenever I start ASP.NET core, completely core related, I'm going to teach you ASP.NET, but already in the, if 1 year back, okay, so I have already from last 10 years onwards, I was teaching like ASP.NET with C# and SQL. No, I was teach completely with framework level. That videos also there with me. I can also share before going to start ASP.NET Core, complete ASP.NET videos with framework. That is free of cost. That videos you can check it, how that is and how this core you can compare with. But I'll not teach you complete ASP.NET Core with framework. That's not required because our main focus on .NET Core only. So that's what ASP.NET Core. What I mean to say, before going to start ASP.NET Core, I have already pre-recorded videos are there with ASP.NET along with normal .NET framework, not core framework. So that was very easy to implement the application. But MVC with core, MVC with web API, somewhat little bit complex, but layers are introduced. No, so there are MVC are there, model view controller. That's what programmer will get little bit confused. So sometimes you have to manage this model, sometimes you have to manage this view logic, and sometimes you have to manage with action methods. All things need to be coordinated. So any layer is missing something, then other layers will affect here. But its architecture level, it's good. Security level, it's good. And editing level, it's good. So this is MVC pattern, which will come under ASP.NET web application only. Web application means the application which will provide services on the web or over the web is called web application clearly. Okay. So now coming to this, not only using .NET like standalone or desktop applications, console application, Windows Forms, web applications, and we can also design gaming application also we can build using .NET. Okay, there is Xamarin tool is there for gaming applications, and also sorry, mobile applications. Xamarin tool is there, mobile applications are there, and gaming application purpose Unity framework is there. That Unity framework is completely you have to write code with C#.NET only, and network based application also we can develop using .NET, and we can also write Windows services, and we can also write web services, and also we can build WPF. That is, this is the extension of Windows Forms application. This stands for Windows Presentation Foundation. Windows Presentation Foundation, we can say, and WCF also there. That is Windows Communication Foundation. WCF, Windows Communication Foundation. This is an extension of web services, Windows Communication Foundation, we can say that Windows Communication Foundation, and lot more business applications also we can develop. If any business clients are required to provide services to their customers, if they'll come with requirements, we can able to fulfill the application requirement along with their business needs. So business application also possible to implement using .NET, sir. So this is the exactly application area and lot more. So because C#.NET is completely high level and general purpose programming language, so that once a programming language is general purpose and high level means it can be able to provide services with regards of any applications, not only a specific applications, any type of application services they will provide. So that is the reason. So this is the application area of .NET actually. So what were the versions of .NET Framework? But I'm telling you here right now versions of .NET Framework and Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is just an editor platform, okay, where we can write .NET code and execute. But along with Visual Studio, .NET Framework also should be integrated, because without framework, we can't able to provide the logics. Please mute your audios while session is going. If you have any question, please ask me uh, at the last of the session, so that, or else you can able to chat also your question. You can post your question in the chat box so that I can receive that. So now coming to this, .NET Framework versions are different, .NET Core versions are different. But whatever the versions are there, like .NET Framework versions and .NET Core versions, Visual Studio is mandatory. Without framework, Visual Studio will not work. Compulsory whenever we install Visual Studio version, along with Visual Studio version, one framework also integrated. So let's try to discuss about what are the .NET Framework versions here. So just I have a complete documentation, and this documentation only I'm going to share. Once you enroll for this course, you will get complete material of .NET as well as C#, ASP, SQL, everything completely will get material actually. Now you can see this. These are the framework version. I'm telling you here, these are the .NET framework versions only. So Visual Studio version. .NET Core versions also there separately that are. So .NET Framework 1.0, at that time Microsoft has given like VS. VS means Visual Studio. 1.1 VS 2003. 2.0 VS 2005. 3.0 not applicable. Means when it was 3.0, Microsoft recommend to use Visual Studio 2005 only. So they were not released any new version of VS 26 like that only. So they were recommend to use Visual Studio 2005. 3.5 .NET Framework VS 2008. 4.0 VS 2010. 4.5 VS 2012. 4.6 VS 2015. 4.7 VS 27. 4.7.1 and 2 VS 2019. 4.8, this is the latest VS 2022. What is this latest? Framework latest. .NET Framework latest, not .NET Core. Core frameworks are different, but Visual Studio is a common. Okay, this is the VS 2022. If you want to work with .NET 4.8 framework, and you can go for VS 2022. Okay, VS 2019 is suitable for up to 4.7 only. So 4.7, all minor versions also support in this VS 2022, no problem. When we open Visual Studio 2022 while creating application, so they'll suggest you clearly, you can choose your framework version and you can continue with applications only. So these are all completely .NET Framework versions, sir, not .NET Core versions. So .NET Core versions are different and framework versions are different. As I said, that .NET Core completely designed and released for the first time in the year of 2016. Okay, 2016 only. From 2016, there are a lot of .NET Core versions also there. Okay, core versions. So what are the .NET Core version from 2016? We'll explain now. So first .NET Core versions, what we can say, normal core versions are there. Normal core version. Actually, 2016 .NET Core is there. 2016 .NET Core, and later onwards 2019 like .NET Core 1.0, every time they were released .NET Core 1.1. Okay, so .NET Core 2.2.1, .NET Core 2.2, .NET Core 3.3, 2020 March, .NET 5.0 2020 May 10 2022, and .NET Core 6 also there. There are so many versions are there. Let me write here so that you'll understand. These are the .NET framework versions only. Like .NET Core versions I'm writing here. Okay. .NET Core 1.1. First .NET Core released in the year of 2016. Okay. But .NET Core 1.1 released, I'm telling recent versions, 2019. This is .NET Core 1.1. .NET Core 1.0, sorry, this is 1.0, 1.1, 2019 June. This is also 2019. .NET Core 2.0. This is what actually .NET Core 2.0. So this is .NET Core 2.0. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, this is the end of support actually. 2019 only release. This is also 2019. And 2.0 .NET Core. Subversions are there. I'm not going to mention subversion. 3.0, that is 2020. .NET Core 2.0 is May, and .NET Core 3.0 is completely what we can say February. So end is March 3, 2020 only support ended. And .NET Core 3.1 we are going to use. .NET Core 5.0 is there, and .NET Core 6.0 is there. 6 version. .NET 6 we can call it as. So .NET Core 6 or .NET 6 we can call it as. This is the version history of .NET Core. But I'm going to use in our upcoming sessions, in the sessions like 3.1 Core, I'm going to use actually here 3.1. But 6.0 is there, latest updated, that is 6.0. And even 7.0 is there, but that's working, not yet completely available. So mostly 6.0 or 3.1 you can use. But actually 5.0 don't use. 5.0 is ended, and 3.0 also ended. But we'll try to use 6.0 maximum cases, but we'll focus on 3.1. That is completely useful. Still companies are going to use that 3.1 .NET Core version, and if it is possible 6 also, I'll cover some examples with .NET 6 also, because it's the latest updated from Microsoft officially. Okay, so these are the core versions, but even maximum I'm going to focus core concept like core frameworks which is related to ASP.NET only. But most of the cases when I starts with the C#.NET, no, C#.NET topics and all, maximum I'll cover with the .NET framework only. That will be better. And even I'll show you both examples using .NET framework as well as using .NET Core console application, Windows Forms application, both I'll show you. So then only you'll understand what is the main difference between framework applications and .NET Core framework application. But framework is mandatory. Without framework, we can't go with any subjects related here. ASP, C#, SQL, ADO, Entity Framework, MEC, Web API, like that. Even when we go for .NET framework, what is the advantage means? Any additional libraries if you want to install, okay, so directly you can able to install it. But .NET framework is not like that. Already libraries are built on top of the program, and that libraries are useful or not useful, directly it will come. But the advantage of .NET Core is which is the sub libraries need separately how to install it. That is the better actually. So which is required directly you can use it, which is not required don't use it. So there is a NuGet package system is there in ASP.NET Core web development. So NuGet package system, from there we can able to collect the libraries, and you can install into our applications. We can develop the applications. Okay, so this is the story of .NET Core versions. And coming to this, main .NET framework components are there. So when we start build an application like console or web application and Windows Forms application, ASP.NET MVC applications, okay, entity framework applications, compulsory uh, two main components are required. So that components are called .NET framework components. .NET framework components. Why? Because without these components, we can't go for execution and writing coding point of view. One is C base class libraries, BCL, or else we can say a framework class libraries. This is main component. Base class libraries. Base class libraries. This also called as FCL, framework class libraries. We can call it as framework class libraries. So base class libraries or framework class libraries. And next one is mainly CLR, sir. CLR is the major contribution, that is common language runtime is there. These two are there. These two are the main components of .NET. So simple way I can say base class libraries are building blocks of .NET framework, even .NET Core framework also. These are all building blocks of .NET framework. And without base class libraries, we can't write any .NET program, because this will act as same like header files in C++, packages in Java, modules in Python, how they'll act. Like same here also, header files role will play, that is called base class libraries. But in the .NET context, we can call it as that namespaces only. So generally, when we start C# .NET program, on the top of the program, we have to include some namespaces. But actually, by default, namespaces, some predefined or built-in namespaces, along with namespaces, we will get a program. That is the advantage of .NET actually. Programmer need not to think much more about namespaces, because whatever your application, um, whatever you choose the application type, based on that, basic libraries, basic namespaces will come on top of the program only. So if you need, you can use it, or if you don't need, you can ignore it. And later, if existing namespaces do not meet your requirements, and you can able to install it clearly, it's possible. So these are the base class libraries. Without base class libraries, we cannot write any .NET program code. It's not possible. Compulsory base class libraries are required. Building blocks of .NET framework, base class libraries are. So if you don't install .NET Framework software along with Visual Studio software, then base class libraries will not be installed. If base class libraries will not be installed, then you cannot able to write the program. So this is the basics of base class library. We'll discuss more details. Base class library actually in the form of two types, like .exe file and DLL type is there. DLL means dynamic link library. .exe means executable file. I'll discuss about these two in tomorrow session clearly. And what is coming to the CLR? CLR stands for Common Language Runtime. It's very simple and straightforward. Uh, how Java programmers use like JVM, Java Virtual Machine, same .NET programmers use CLR, Common Language Runtime. Means, as I said that .NET supports multiple languages like C#, .NET, VB.NET, J#, .NET, F#, .NET, Windows PowerShell, Iron Ruby, Iron Python, and more languages. So .NET supports multiple languages. So all are .NET support languages only. For all .NET support languages, who will provide runtime environment or execution environment means CLR. CLR is going to take responsible to provide runtime environment or execution environment for all .NET programming languages, related .NET programming language. Without CLR, we can't run the program, we can't execute the program. So for every web application development or any application development point of view, writing code is important to us. After that, writing code compilation and execution also very important. For writing code, base class libraries are required, and for execution of the code, CLR is required. These two are .NET framework components. How these two come? When we install directly .NET software, automatically these two will come and it will be support clearly. So these are the very mandatory things. Base class libraries are mandatory. Common language runtime is mandatory. These two are important components clearly. And common language runtime is having sub-components also, like common language specification, garbage collector, and what we can say, common type system. Okay, common language specification, common type system, garbage collector, JIT compiler. These are included under comes into CLR. So these things we'll discuss in next session, that is tomorrow session. Tomorrow session is how .NET code will execute, that is code execution process of .NET, code execution process of .NET. Okay, and also CLR subcomponents we'll discuss clearly. Code execution process of .NET and CLR execution process, CLR subcomponents, how it will work. Okay, so this is just a basic demonstration. This is the second session of my .NET Core. So first session, if you want, those who are not attended first session last week, Friday only I took the session, and Saturday, Sunday again I missed that, and today Monday. So this is the second session. If you want to watch my first session, you can visit officially www.durgasoft.com YouTube channel, and there you can find my playlist, so you can watch that. In that also I have not explained anything, just what is our action plan in this .NET Core concepts, what subjects I'm going to teach, that was only there in that. And in this video, in this session, I just discuss what is .NET and .NET Framework and Core and .NET Framework difference, and what software is required, and what is the application area of .NET, and core versions, and two components importance. And tomorrow, once I discuss first at 15 minutes about this framework components, then we'll starts with C#.NET only, because C#.NET is the main language for our complete course of .NET Core. Everywhere we are going to write C#.NET logic only. Whether you go for ASP.NET Core and MVC and Web API, Entity Framework, everywhere we are going to write C# logic. So that is the main thing. Obviously, tomorrow I'm going to start C#.NET directly. So that's all for now. So if you have any question, you can feel free to ask me now regarding this lecture. 4 months duration compulsory. Every session is going to be recorded. Same session recorded video will send to your Google Drive. The video lectures will be downloadable and accessible lifetime only, and along with soft copy of material. Once I start C#.NET, C#.NET material I'll upload completely. ASP.NET, again that also upload. SQL Server, again that I'll upload, like that only. But videos daily basis it will come. So any question, you can feel free to ask me now. You can type your question in the chat box so that I can give the answer, or else you can speak with me, no problem. Open, switch on your mic and speak with me. So same time, sir. Timing is not changed. 8 to 9 p.m. Indian time. Any certificate? Yeah, course completion certificates they will provide from our institute onwards. You can easily get, not a problem.
Sir, you C# taken from scratch, na?
Tell me.
Hello.
C#? Yeah, tell me.
From basic, na, sir?
What basic?
C#, C# teaching from scratch, na, sir? Because I don't have any knowledge.
No problem. C#.NET, very basic, from scratch. Fundamentals, data types, loops, control statements, operators, everything will teach you. Don't worry about that, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for attending this session. Tomorrow also you can join on the same link at same time. We'll discuss more about these lectures. So we'll start tomorrow C#.NET introduction and coding also. I'll introduce Visual Studio and coding also.
Hello. Hi, sir. Hello.
Yeah, tell me, Ashlesha. Yeah, tell me.
Yes, actually, I want to see the first demo lecture. So, how can I access that recording?
Just wait. You can go to Google and type YouTube and DurgaSoft. You can directly go there. I'll assist you, just a minute. Just go to DurgaSoft, type DurgaSoft, and obviously you will be able to get official YouTube channel link.
Okay.
Wait a minute, wait. Here you are finding this Durga Software Solutions. This is the link, and you can just go to playlist. I think they uploaded my video, so you'll be able to find that. So now you can see this is the playlist. Actually, playlist not directly. Only one video is there. It is there now from the second only. .NET Core tutorials. Friday it was completed 2 days ago. And this is the second lecture. You can watch this video.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. So see you tomorrow at same link at same time only. Have a nice day.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.